As a veteran small business owner, what can we do for you?
What we can all do for all veteran business owners is promote each other.
My main mission was to look at tools and technology to leverage small business and give them more of a competitive advantage.
My mission for Veteran Bargains is very simple: to help vets.
That story in itself, to run for Vista City Council, is a journey.
I think this is an opportunity to really collaborate with those gone before us.
It's really kind of a labor of love.
And now your host.
Welcome everyone to Legal Tuesdays. We are here with Kelly, from Bagla Law Firm. We're talking about legal issues for business owners, and we are happy to have Kelly with us today, which she'll be talking to us about some issues that business owners face as we try to reestablish and reopen our enterprises. So there is some issues that Kelly and I will be discussing, and I do have some questions from the audience that have received either via email or people just text me some questions and they wanted me to ask those questions to Kelly. So I will be addressing those during the show. So one of the main issues that business owners face is what to do legally and how do we protect ourselves from the liabilities of a business. So we'll be covering today is the liability issues of business. What's in the contract? That's one of the questions we will be addressing. What are the main things we should look for in a contract, the key parts of it? And then, so there's a few questions I would like to go and kind of run by you. But first, welcome, Kelly, and thank you for doing the Legal Tuesdays with us. We're happy to have you, and welcome back. And,
Thank you, Joe. It's always a pleasure jumping on the episode with you. So thank you for having me again.
Oh, absolutely, it's really our pleasure. And like I said before, Kelly comes with a huge wealth of knowledge on how to help business owners. And from my personal experience, she's been amazing on how to break it down in a level that, as an individual, we can understand. And I know legal can be complicated at times, but with Kelly, it kind of becomes our legal translator. And thank you for that, Kelly.
I like that title.
Right?
Exactly.
All right. So I'm going to hit you with the first questions. Actually, that was the first question. If you can give us 3 to 5 elements that as a business owner I should look for in a contract. Like if those 3 or 5 elements are not in the contract, I should not sign it. I should send it back. Any of those, and by all means, everything that we say today, I know is for educational purposes only. This is not a legal contract. Whatever you tell me is just for the purpose of learning.
Absolutely.
And so we don't have a legal client contract at this time. And that's a disclaimer that I think we should say, right?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
you want to add something, please do. But I just want to make
perfect.
sure that we are honest and we're transparent. And this is just to help people, business owners, get a little bit of knowledge from an expert. So, Kelly, 3 to 5 things that a contract should have before I even sign it. Well,
Okay. So, Joe, that really depends, like everything else in legal, right? It depends. So, for example, if it's going to be a business-related contract, if it's going to be an employment-related contract, if it's going to be let's have a look, a third-party related contract. So it really depends on the types of contracts that you enter into. But at least the employment and at least let's just take the independent contractor agreement, because I think most of the small businesses definitely use that, right, Joe? Mm-hmm. So let's just take the independent contractor agreement. The most important elements in that agreement, one, is definitely going to be price. How is the independent contractor going to get paid? What are the terms of the payment? So, for example, is it going to be half up now, half at the end of the project? Is it going to be all up front? Do you have any refund policies at all? So all of those need to be captured under, let's say, compensation. So we call it compensation. And I cannot stress highly enough that the independent contractor should always use their own contract, always. Now, the second element would be the parties who are involved in who's a party to the contract. And what I mean by that, and again, it comes from experience. I've helped my clients through this, and some of my clients have, prior to coming to me, have stumbled upon this and they've literally lost the money that they had contracted for. So who are the parties? Sometimes it's not directly the company itself, or it could be a subsidiary of the company itself. But you have to make sure that you have a responsible officer of the company sign the contract. People at big, large companies, they come and go whenever. And sometimes the predecessors do not stand up and say, yes, we'll take care of this contract. So you have to really, really be mindful of that as to who is signing. So you should use language, CEO and an executive officer, whoever that may be, something to that effect. So make sure that you've got the price, the compensation down, the parties that are in the contract, and then you definitely have to make sure you have to spell out. This could be a separate page to your independent contract agreement. You have to spell out what are the duties, what are you providing exactly, and what is the company paying you exactly for. So make sure that you have those particular, and spend some time on that part too, because there's so much litigation that always happens over that section of the contract. What is it that you were supposed to provide to the client? A fourth must-have, especially with big companies, independent contractor agreements definitely should have some confidentiality agreement language in there. Companies, they like to sometimes keep their information confident, and they don't necessarily want to publicize it that they are engaging third parties to do certain projects for them. So make sure that you have confidentiality language in there. And the last and final thing that you must have is some sort of dispute resolution clause in the contract. That is going to govern if something goes wrong, both parties misunderstood, or someone decided not to pay, or someone decided not to follow through with the project, then either party can actually sue. But how is that going to look like? You can either do mediation, you could do arbitration, or you can actually go to court as well. And obviously that would take a longer conversation as to which one would be right for that particular business. But those are the 5 must-haves in a contract.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much. Very
Yes.
key elements, key parts on how to set up a contract. Would you also advise on having a kind of termination clause in that event? Like sometimes business owners are very eager to sign contracts and being there, done that. And but let's say there is a contract for X number of dollars for for X number, let's say for 2 years, 3 years, and then but at some point I can no longer want to have that contract. And I believe it's called the exit clause, a way for me to kind of say, okay, I'm done with this. I would like to remove myself from this. How do I pay you out? Or how do you pay me out and end this? And so we don't have to go to litigation. I know it's going to cost me some dollars, but how do I get out of this contract? Well, that's something that you would be advising to have.
That's a great question, Joe. The reason being is because, again, it depends on the type of contract that the business owner is entering into. Sometimes having a termination clause is not always a great advantage to the business partner. But let's stick with the independent contractor agreement. Now, there's the way that works, and the way the law distinguishes it completely different from an employment contract is exactly the duration of the contract. And so it's presumed as an independent contractor that you are going to complete the projects that I'm going to pay you for. But if something happens during that, you're right, what's the exit for both parties? Either they can come to a mutual agreement and say this is really not working, or they can simply say, either you refund the money that I gave you or have somebody else complete the project for me. So it's really a clause that needs to be tailored where both parties will be satisfied in this particular situation.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. That was a pretty good explanation. Okay, so I do have another question for you, and this has to do with the COVID reopening time. I know there is a lot of changes happening, restaurants moving outside, things that people have to adjust and adapt to the new way of doing business, or whatever we want to call it. But is there any type of liabilities that you would like to suggest or discuss on how to best protect themselves?
That's again, this topic, Joe, could not be more timely. In fact, I was actually on Fox 5 San Diego News as a guest speaking about this very topic. As businesses do start to reopen, they are very concerned about being sued by someone that may contract COVID-19. So how do businesses open in this day and age and protect themselves as well at the same time? Now, business is highly recommended for businesses if they are, let's have a look, having people come onto their premises. It's important for them to have that person sign the waiver. The reason for the waiver is really twofold. One, it protects the customer. You're telling the customer that, look, we have cleaned the surfaces, we have disinfected everything, we've made the premises safe for you to enter. But at the same time, we need to cover ourselves too. So if you sign the waiver, that's a piece of evidence that you can hold on to in case someone comes back and says, well, I think I contracted COVID-19 from this particular location. Now, if some people don't want to sign the waivers, that's okay. You can't force anyone to sign, but you can always make a comment on the waiver that this person came into the store, they didn't want to sign, but we did tell them that we are following health and safety guidelines. Now, the weight of the waiver. So this is a very touchy subject right now, Joe, and the reason being is because no one knows what's going on. These are all brand new waters we're swimming in, and nobody knows what's happening, especially on the law side. So the weight of the waiver, you're going to look at the waiver as a contract, as any contract. It's between two parties, and it's always interpreted as such in court. So generally, in California, courts do not like the waiver of personal liability. They don't like that. But there isn't even a case in court yet regarding someone suing a business saying that they contracted the virus from there. It's always a great habit to get into as a business owner. Always mitigate your losses. And what I mean by that is if somebody sues you and they say, okay, we contracted COVID-19 and the business didn't tell us that they're following health and safety, but I think I definitely got it from here. That's when you can pull out the waiver and you can show the waiver that, no, we explained that we are following health and safety guidelines. So instead of you paying 100% of somebody's medical, maybe you'll pay 50%. So again, that's mitigating your damages. But businesses, there's a glimpse of good news here, and that is that the federal law is proposing a safe harbor for businesses, including colleges and universities, to protect against lawsuits. However, this law or the legislation is supposed to be part of the next coronavirus economic relief bill, and we don't know when that's going to happen, but that's what is being proposed. And if that does come out, that's just really great news for businesses. That's one less thing they have to worry about, is being sued under the COVID-19. And then also it's going to be retroactive back to 2019. and eventually it would terminate in 2024. So that gives businesses a very long time to actually start doing business in confidence and start making money again.
Wow.
Oh, by the way, Joe,
yes.
if I may also, because again, this is such a timely topic, and I care about business owners. I am one. And if they go to golegalyourself.com, they can download a waiver that they can use simply from the home page.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And if you don't mind, we can probably, if they can go to your page. You want to describe your page for our listeners?
Sure, that would be great. So if you go to golegalyourself.com.
And it's just right in front of it.
It's right on the home page. So you scroll down just a teeny bit and you're going to see the COVID-19 language there.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. And I know sometimes we want to know what should be in it. So having it accessible that way makes it a lot easier for anyone to kind of just use it. And
absolutely.
Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Following up on a question like that, for example, as a business owner, is a type of insurance, and this may be something that is not related to legal, but would be beneficial for a business to acquire or purchase a particular type of insurance that will protect them against a lawsuit or a claim because of COVID?
Again, Joe, these are unprecedented times that we're living in. Absolutely. And nothing has been set as a precedent, nothing. So as I know, as far as law goes, that they're still trying to scramble and figure out how we're going to move forward from a legal perspective. But from the insurance industry, clearly they're one of the richest industries, right, globally, and I'm sure they are tripping over themselves as well, trying to figure this out. Usually, the general liability insurance will cover something if someone hurt themselves on your premises as a business owner. That would cover their injuries, and it's been proposed, especially in California. Here, California makes life really hard for business owners here to do business because it's a very employee-friendly state. But with California, they are actually extending the workers' compensation to apply to employees as far as COVID goes. So that's separate for employees. But, I think for right now, it has to be the general liability insurance that would probably cover these types of incidences, yes.
Yes, I totally agree. There's insurance for everything you can think of, except for COVID right now.
I know.
Yes.
But just to finish up there, Joe,
sure.
There is another type of insurance, and I highly recommend business owners to get it. It's called interruption insurance. And so this actually came in handy when let's have a look, in southern, LA area, there were the Northridge earthquakes, and the businesses surrounded there had to shut down because they had to sort of rebuild. Well, that insurance actually kicked in and gave them money while they were rebuilding. So again, COVID's one of those things. It's here until we all can get a vaccination. But I think maybe businesses should have that conversation with their insurance companies now rather than later.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Well, following up on California, I have a question that just relates to that.
Yes.
I guess, I have a veteran who's asking this question, and he's setting up it's a new business, and you may be very familiar with this. I'm sure you are, but he's in California and wants to set up his company. He's doing some work, and his new company, even though he's in California, and because he wants to go after funding for investors, he wants to set up his company in Delaware. So his question was, can you find out from Kelly what would be the dynamics, the pros and cons, or the easiest way to get my funding, but also it's a good idea to set up in Delaware, even though I live in California, but I may do business somewhere else. So what would be the advice?
99.9% of companies that actually have private investment funding are set up in Delaware. The reason why is because investors know Delaware law. It's been around forever. It's one of the first states to really set precedents as far as case law goes. And again, it's very, very friendly to businesses. Now, if you are in California and you've already set up your company here, you can do one of two things. One, you can actually transfer it to Delaware, so now it becomes a Delaware entity. Or two, you can wait until you're closer to funding, because investors want this conversation with you. They're going to ask you, where are you incorporated? And you can say California, but as soon as I get funding, I'm going to reincorporate in Delaware. And the investors will just tell you straight out, okay, well, we want to have you reincorporate in Delaware. Is that okay? Then you say absolutely. Now, the pros and cons. The pro is, again, Delaware is very business friendly. California is not. Delaware, every business that's incorporated has to pay franchise tax, and that's the state tax. Basically, it's a privilege for you to do business in the state, right? With Delaware, you're looking around $300. It's not much a year. With California, you're looking at $800 to $900 a year, so that's more expensive. Other than that, you can always incorporate in Delaware and then file in California as a foreign corporation. Basically, you've got all the protections of Delaware law, but you can still run your business from California. I hope that was helpful.
So follow up on that is, would it be advantageous for this individual to set up his company in Delaware, as investors will be more open for putting money there, and then set up a DBA in California, not necessarily to incorporate? Can that be done?
It can be done, but I wouldn't advise setting up a DBA. So investors are very, very savvy. I've had investors that have been clients. I've had business owners that are looking for funding as clients as well. So I know the spectrum of both sides. Now, as far as incorporating, if you haven't incorporated already, highly recommend you incorporate in Delaware. That's going to be your best bet right out of the gate. Again, you can't go wrong there. There really aren't any cons there. Then as far as doing business in California, I would highly recommend that you file as a foreign corporation to do business in California, not a DBA, because DBAs don't protect. If you get sued in California and you're under a DBA, they don't protect you personally. So definitely make sure you do that foreign filing in California. Okay.
Well, great advice. Great advice. And so that kind of, we, as always, we kind of keep talking and we cover a few things. But we run out of time for our sessions, for our Legal Tuesday sessions. But it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, Kelly. And
thank you, Joe. It always goes by so quickly.
I know, right?
I blame you.
I know, like, oh my God. But always happy to get questions from our viewers, our listeners, through the website, through your website. And always happy to kind of bring those questions forward to you and get that key legal advice, plain English with an awesome British accent to our listeners. So thank you very much, Kelly, for doing this with us and for us. The Veteran Chamber of Commerce really thanks you, and our veterans really appreciate what you do for us. And,
thank you so much.
And being a military spouse, so it's always a pleasure to keep it within the family.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you.
I will see you again in October for our next Legal Tuesday.
I look forward to it, Joe.
Thank you, Kelly.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.